So let's talk about ratios and proportions and how to solve proportions in particular. So ratios, let's just start with that. A ratio for the most part, if you were to look at one, you'd look at it and oftentimes it's represented by like a fraction, or sometimes you see it as a colon. So a ratio is when you are kind of comparing two things. You're comparing the number of, like if you're out trick-or-treating, the number of pieces of candy to the number of pieces of fruit. I don't know who gets fruit when they go trick-or-treating, but it's a comparison. Now, a proportion is two ratios set equal to each other. Okay, and I know we've seen these before, but again, it's a comparison of these ratios. So like if I have 1 to 5 is the same thing as 2 to 10. So for every one piece of gum you get 5 pieces of candy. That would be the same thing as you would get 2 pieces of gum, you would then expect to get 10 pieces of candy. Well, a proportion, there's oftentimes a missing part where you're trying to look for part of it. So for instance, right here, like 9 is to 10 is equal to x over 20. Now, you might be able to go through and do a little guess and check on this one, but let's talk about how you'd go about solving this thing algebraically. And the easiest way to go about solving this one is to do what we call cross multiply. And so I'm going to multiply 10 times x, and I would write down here 10x. And then I'd multiply 20 times 9, and I'd get 180. And then I'm just going to divide by 10, and I get 18 equals x. So 9 is to 10 is the same thing as 18 is to 20, which hopefully makes sense. All right, so let's take that quick little rule or trick that I just showed you, and let's solve another one that's maybe not so obvious. So it looks like I'm going to cross multiply again. I get 77 over here. I get 5x. Divide by 5. Now 5 doesn't divide into 77 evenly, but no big deal. If I were to just write it as a mixed number, it would be 15. 5 goes into 77 15 times with 2 left over, so 15 and 2/5. Okay, last one. Now proportions can get a little more complicated. They don't have to be quite as simple as those. This one's not terribly complicated, but it gives you the idea. And that is you just simply cross multiply again. So I'm going to multiply 4 times 3, and I'll get 12. Now here it's 7 times all of this. So how do you think we would write that? Well, we would write it as 7, then the quantity of x plus 2. And then I'd go through and I would distribute. 7x plus 14 equals 12. I would subtract 14. I get 7x equals negative 2. Divide by 7. And I get x is equal to negative 2/7. And there you go. There's the basic rundown of ratios and solving proportions.